totally didn't think about this being flammable. What up, people? Today we are putting up Thinsulate in the van for our roof or ceiling insulation. We have our pre-wiring done, which we didn't film because we didn't know what we were doing and we had help. So we'll go over our electrical in another video, just an overview. But basically gonna put up Thinsulate. Hi, Ricky. Say hi to the vlog.
Hello.
Okay, this is what our Thinsulate looks like. It's just rolled up. We just unrolled it. I think it just takes some time to expand, but I think it's supposed to be 1.5 inches. Pretty sure, could be wrong. But yeah, it should be a fairly easy project. We just are going to be measuring out squares basically, and then using our 94 spray adhesive, which I'm pretty sure you only need 90 for this, but that's what we're gonna use.
Could probably get away with even less than that, but we, you know, it's not that much more for like the heavy duty stuff, so I'd rather it stay up there when we put it up there.
And then I'll have to double check, but I believe that you put the adhesive on, let it sit for like a minute or a couple minutes, and then you adhere the white side up onto the adhesive. So we'll double check that though. So this is probably the easiest thing I've done the entire build. It is way easier than doing the foam board insulation that we have on our walls, but Thinsulate is so expensive, so we didn't do it for the whole van. So basically all I'm doing is measuring out, like, very quickly and easily sections of the ceiling. And this stuff is so simple to measure and cut, like, and it's so flexible that, like, you don't need to measure multiple times and have the most perfect cut and measurement. So I'm just kind of drawing out or measuring out the distance that I need, and then with a Sharpie I'm just kind of putting dots around because it's kind of hard to draw on this white side. It's so cottony, you can just pull up like insulation. So just putting dots, and then I'm just kind of eyeballing it along the way and kind of cutting where I see those next dots. And then I'll show you in a second where the wires are hanging down from the pre-wiring. We're just gonna draw, like, cut a slit through the Thinsulate. That way the wires can pull through. So, super simple. I feel like I should have mentioned this in case you were wondering. Ricky's just doing some boring in between projects that we're not gonna film. Another thing about this is you'll definitely want utility scissors instead of like craft scissors or anything like that, because it is pretty thick and tough, but these work great. I'm on my last really long strip that is gonna run like widthways on the van, and then we'll kind of have a little left over, but you best believe we're gonna use that extra, and luckily it's so easy to cut and fit in that we'll be able to utilize every single piece.
What is up? Project for the day is going to be getting our ceiling panels measured, cut. Probably aren't going to be mounting them today, but we want to get them measured and cut so we have them ready for when that time comes. We're using these 1x4 panels. They're truly only like, I think it's 1/2 by 3.5, but they're advertised as 1x4s. So we know our center board is going to lie here. This will be the middle, the median of the center board. On top of that, one thing I don't think we ever mentioned in one of our previous videos is our rear stud, if you will, to mount our ceiling panels. So what I did was I used 2x2s, and this first 2x2 in the back, I used rib nuts to mount it to this right here. And then from there, to kind of provide a little more curvature like the other ceiling struts have, I used 2 more 2x2s, and they're at a slight angle. So whenever, you know, it transitions from this first board to this board, you know, it's a nice, smooth, rounded transition. I had to notch out a little bit on the backside here and a little bit on the backside over here to make sure it fits with all the little rounded and edges of the van. But, you know, our panels are gonna come from all the other ceiling struts here, mount back here, so that way it will be nice and snug and there won't be any sag in the back. And also, forgot to mention, we obviously don't have our Thinsulate up yet, so our Thinsulate will go up before our ceiling panels go up. And then I mentioned how we're going to have a 3/8 inch gap between each of the ceiling panels. You know, obviously if you have a 3-inch gap, you might be able to see the Thinsulate or, you know, the wood or anything like that. So to make it look more polished and finished, we just got this black, you know, lightweight thin vinyl fabric that we're going to, you know, just nail up to the roof after we put the Thinsulate up. So that way there's a nice black finish before we put our panels up. So in between the gaps of the panels, you'll just see it's black. And pretty simple, cheap, and I think it's going to look just fine. So most people, when they do this design where, you know, they want some spaces in between their panels, they will use plywood, like a big sheet of plywood or, you know, sectioned off plywood. For one, it makes the build heavier. It's a lot more to work with. It also would reduce some of my head space as well, and I'm already kind of pushing it. So we wanted to go with something that kind of combated both of those things, and we felt that this was a good resolution. And I guess let's get started making it happen. Okay, so what seemed like a decade of sanding, we are finally ready to apply some of our stain. Just using a classic pine color. Yeah, that's about it. This is it. So, let's get these puppies stained.
It is a new weekend. This weekend we're going to try to get our ceiling done. What we're going to start doing is we have all of our Thinsulate pieces cut, so we're going to get all those adhered to the ceiling. We're also going to use some gaps and cracks to fill these little, I'll show you, just fill these cavities. And then we have an angle grinder. We're going to have to cut these bolts shorter so that our wood planks don't run into them. And we're also going to use a black fabric instead of, let me see, we're going to use this black fabric that we got at Michael's to cover the Thinsulate and the ceiling, so that when our planks are spaced out, this is the background and you don't see the Thinsulate, and we don't have to use plywood. Thinsulate we have to glue, and let's get into it. Sorry for all the noise. There are people working out there. But we are about to cut these bolts, and we taped this so that any of the like metal that flies off won't like burn the panel. We'll see how well that works. Totally didn't think about this being flammable, so I just stopped doing the insulation for now. We're gonna wait like 15 minutes for that to dry, and then hopefully it'll be safe enough to do the angle grinding. Smells really bad, but we got all of our bolts cut off. These 4 big ones, and then these skinnier ones. Okay, we started sticking up our Thinsulate. We got 1 piece in. We just want to test fit it. We're using this 94 adhesive to stick it up there. We spray it, leave it on for about 5 minutes. And then I am using a charcoal mask because it smells really strong. And then for our wires that are hanging, we are cutting slits or holes in the Thinsulate so that we can pull the wires through. Okay, we got our Thinsulate done on the ceiling. It's pretty easy. I also forgot to mention that we put the adhesive on the Thinsulate as well and let both sit for 5 minutes, then stuck the piece up. But this is what it looks like. Also, when we were up here working, we found this. And it has like these like weird bead things. And it smells kind of nice. I have no idea what this is. We bought this van used, so this was just left in here. If any of you know what this is, comment below and let us know.
We got all of our ceiling struts in back to about right here. We need one final run going right here so we can have the front of our ceiling panels supported. So what we're going to do is we have a piece of wood, it's a piece of plywood, cut to, I think it's like a 1/2 inch thick. And what we're going to do is we're going to use self-drilling screws. We're going to go through these, through the metal roof right here. We're going to mount it up, and then once these are, drilled up in here, it'll sit about like this, and it will sit flush with the remainder of the ceiling panels. And I don't know if you could tell, but it's kind of tricky to get up in here. So we bought this 90-degree angle bit so we can get up here and work more efficiently. Alright, so now that we got our Thinsulate up, holes cut out for wiring for the puck lights, and all of our ceiling furring strips good to go, we're going to get this black vinyl up. That's going to go under our ceiling planks to just give it a nice finished look underneath. But yeah, so we need to get this up. It is the right dimension for the van. As we put it up, we're going to have to cut holes out for everything. But we're going to use just a simple staple gun to get these fastened, and then use a nailer for the ceiling panels. Okay, so ran into a problem when we tried to do this the first time. We got a staple gun, and we actually ended up getting the wrong size staples. So gotta love that. But it was too dark to go get the staples and come back and start working last night. So starting the day fresh, got the right staples, and time to put this bad boy up.
We're so pumped. We got the fabric up and it was so easy. Now time for the planks.
Alright, first board is up. Should be dead smack in the spot that we need it to make sure everything's perfectly spaced out to completely reach the ends. There's no going back from here. We should have the ceiling shortly.
Okay, I'm gonna grab the tape measure.
Okay.
Do you want me to measure it or?
I mean,
So.
we're to the panels now that are going to be holding our puck lights. So, you know, we have where our wires drop down, and we located where they would be on this plank. So we got those using a hole saw, and it is a 2 1/4 inch hole saw, which is what we need for our puck lights. But so now to make sure that the 2 panels that are holding the lights are symmetrical, we're just using this one as kind of like a template that we already drew. Got it clamped perfect, end to end, it's flush. And now all I'm doing, as you can see here, I just kind of just tried to mark it where I'm gonna need to drill. So we got this one. Now let's do this one. I just figured this would be a little easier than having to remeasure the exact distances and whatnot. Just trying to save a little bit of time. And now I know exactly where to drill on the other board.
Another useful tip when doing this is once you start drilling the hole, go up from underneath when the bit has poked through the wood.
Yeah, definitely.
And it'll allow you to come out with a really clean hole.
Because if you just go all the way through and just let it bust out the bottom will typically like rip wood on its way out. So if you come in halfway this way, and then technically you should probably flip over the board, but if you go in halfway and then in halfway on the other side, it'll make both sides have a nice clean cut.
We are so close to finishing the ceiling and we are in love with it. Don't worry, this part's gonna be covered by a frame. We didn't want to bother like cutting this piece out to fit this when it's just gonna be covered anyways. But we just have 2 more pieces left. We just have to carve out the corners for those so that they'll fit, and then we just have to finish these last small ones right here. At the end here above our headboard, we just used screws, and we had to use that 90 bit again so that we could get the drill in here. And we're not too worried about how this looks with the silver screws, because we are going to have a curtain covering this area, and eventually we might finish it with a door face. We just have a lot to think about before then. But that's what it looks like. These are 1x4 pine planks. We space them out with these paint sticks, 3 in each gap, except on this side we had to use 2 in the last 3 gaps and 2 in the last 2 gaps over here, so that we didn't have to resize any of the wood to fit the end. But anyways, we love it, and we will talk to you in the next one.
Said I gotta run away, get away now. Too many games and they all trying to play out. Too many people and they all start to change now. Let me take a bet, they gon' know my name.